Voter registration apathy is becoming a growing concern in Enugu State and across the southeast, of course, as many residents express pessimism about the value of their permanent voters' cards and, by implication, their votes. Some describe it as trauma and others a product of irregularities. Let's take a look.
Yeah, it's important because the last one that we did, last election, is like it's useless because the most important thing is that they are not doing what they told us that they are going to do. So there's no need for us to use to do the card again.
For me, as I did so like this, I no go fit come out for anything that they call votes, to vote for anybody at all. Even if now my papa wants to stand there and they come out for them, because anybody will vote for your votes, they can't for Nigeria. Tinubu where they for seats, I no vote for them. We no vote for them. But instead in turn, then carry the vote to give a main seat there. And see the way the country be now. Tomorrow night, go tell person, make person go vote again. Where we say if you come out votes, we all know say we no vote for Tinubu. But today, then carry person will no vote for, give us there. And the country don't scatter. So nothing like voting again. The government should do whatever thing that is in their mind. What they are doing now is appointments. There's nothing like a election in Nigeria again. So they will appoint anybody they want to come and sit there and rule the people. That is what they did to us last time. So for this time, nobody is coming out to vote again. For me personally, I don't know about others.
Our problem is not INEC, but the leadership of the country and the leadership of INEC. The leadership of INEC is already sabotaged by the leadership of the country. Like they say, he that pays the piper dictates the tone. So when the leadership in the country dictates who and who that will be in position in charge of INEC, what do you expect? They're going to work in their favor. They will still rig the election, come again 2027. Already APC is giving you a lead to what is going to happen in 2027 by conducting a shabby by-election. It's showing you that they have already won all over the country. It's a problem.
Now, Head of Voter Education and Publicity, Rex Achumi, is saddled with building trust and deepening, of course, public understanding of the process, disclosed that fewer than 2,000 people basically completed in-person registration between August 25th and September 12th. INEC data for this showed that by the third week of the exercise, only 133 had registered online, with 1,480 completing physical registration in Enugu State. In an earlier interview, Achumi spoke about calls for free, fair, and credible elections. Let's take a look.
When we talk of INEC, who are these INEC? It's you and I sitting before you. The ad hoc we engage, are they not Nigerians? Are they spirits? They are human beings like us. Who conducts the election? It's still the Nigerians that conduct the election. I believe people should have credibility. And that credibility issue should start from you and I. It's not just INEC alone. It's not like security is everybody's business. Electoral process is everybody's business too.
And there you have it. Now the question is, have voters downed tools? Have they? This is Enugu Kwenu. I am Nathalie Oku. Good evening. Welcome back to Enugu Kwenu on Afia TV, and thank you for staying tuned this evening. Once again, I'm Nathalie, and I'm not alone. Never am I on a Wednesday evening. I'm joined by Sir Abuchi Anueyiagu, Public Affairs Analyst, and of course, one of Afia TV's guests right here in the studio. Sir Abuchi, great to have you.
Thank you.
So we're seeing INEC. People have spoken. The head of voter education and publicity too, Mr. Rex Achumi, is saying that free, fair, credible elections is everybody's responsibility. At this point in time, what do you think is fueling not voter apathy in itself, but the current apathy we're seeing with the ongoing CVR exercise? We're seeing fresh registrations being abysmally low. What do you think is contributing to this?
Thank you, Natalie. Straight to the point. What one might say is contributory to the apathy that is being experienced currently. One might not go far to link it to the kind of posture that the INEC official displayed a while ago when you had a playback of the interview you had with him. He was trying to pass the buck to blame. He blamed the Nigerians. He blamed everybody for the lapses of INEC, and it's quite unfortunate. He's saying, who are the ad hoc staff? Were they not Nigerians, or are they not Nigerians who are recruited to come and do the ad hoc job during the election? But who grooms those people? Who tutors them? Who guides them? Who tells them what to do? Is it a matter of gathering everybody, moving into the street, and then collecting everybody to come and become ad hoc electoral or election ad hoc staff? You have to, there are criteria upon which you recruit people. There must be terms and conditions. There must be requisite qualifications that people ought to possess before you now, use them to conduct election. Do you just go to the street and then gather everybody, recruit everybody? Then you won't blame those people you recruited. You blame yourself who recruited them, because you know the right thing to do and you failed to do that. And when was the time that you are recruiting them? Maybe few days, few weeks to the election, you begin to recruit them. What stops INEC from recruiting those ad hoc staff in time, so that they'll be able to train them, give them the adequate training that they require?
Right, away from the personnel, away from the people that work for INEC or who plan to work for INEC perhaps. You also heard word on the street. You heard from the people. They don't think that is anything like election in Nigeria. They say that it's not an election, now it's an appointment. You heard those interviews. What's your stand on the body language of this section of Enugu residents?
Of course, I agree with them. You heard what some of those interviewees said. You heard them clearly, and they made pronouncement. They said they displayed their indignation, they displayed their resentment about what happened. A situation where somebody won an election, maybe in a particular area, and when the election was being declared, or the winner of the election in that particular area was being declared, a different person was declared. It happened in Rivers State and some other places. And today we are hearing, though I am yet to hear that he has refuted the statement that was credited to him. I mean, Malam El-Rufai, where he was attributed as having said that Peter Obi won the 2023 presidential election. I'm not sure he has refuted that statement credited to him. So when you see that type of thing, and you think people didn't know, yes, people saw what happened, and they became aggrieved, they became disenchanted. So what has INEC done since that time to rekindle the spirit of the people on the credibility of INEC in conducting the next election?
You made a very good point, Sir Abuchi. You're talking about INEC failing to address concerns raised in 2023, and that's a very valid point. So at this point, I'm going to add another bullet point to what you've said. Is it as much of an ignorance problem as it is, let's say, a trust problem? So INEC has not cleared the air, right? Is it that voters are not aware of the ongoing registration exercise, or are they just distrustful of the process?
It is a case of distrust. It is now, because from that interview conducted, you will see their reaction. They ended up by saying, what is the need? What is the point? Going again to register for the next election when you are not sure that they have planned what to do. It shows disillusionment. It shows that, yes, they are aware that there is an ongoing voters registration process online and things like that. And you remember, the people who were saying that, you look at them, you know that they are well informed. They are young men who can read and write, and they are showing resentment. They are the disgusting inclinations. They are there. So they have said that there is no point going to do registration again, which means that it is a matter of distrust. They don't trust. They no longer have faith in the entire system, in the entire process. It's not that they are not aware. They are aware of the ongoing registration, but they are no longer interested because of the experience they had in 2023.
Right. Now, we're having this conversation around CVR. Many people don't understand that this actually is for people who are above 18 and have not gotten their PVCs yet. It's also for people who intend to possibly change their location. If you want to make those changes, that is what you should be doing right now at the INEC, either the state office or the local government offices. So that's just for your information in case you're planning to do that. But
sorry, and even for those who couldn't register, who were of age,
but couldn't register.
The suffrage
Yes.
age for registration, but they couldn't register.
Exactly.
In the
So
last,
those are like fresh registrations for newcomers, for newbies, those who have just turned 18, right? So essentially, what are the consequences of low participation in the election exercise? What kind of consequences would rear their heads in 2027?
The consequences are very obvious. We witnessed that in Anambra, in the last Anambra governorship election, where I think less than 50% of the voters, the people who registered in Anambra State, less than or fewer than 50% of them voted in the last governorship election. So a similar thing perhaps is going to happen in the next general election of 2027 because of apathy, because based on disillusionment, based on distrust. And the INEC, they have not showed, not even sufficient, they have not showed any remorse, and they have not showed any reason to rekindle the hope of people in INEC going to conduct a fair and credible election in 2027. They have not done that. They have not even owned up. You heard what the man was saying. So they were not taking blame. They are not taking blame. I mean INEC. They have exonerated themselves from what happened, the obvious thing that happened in the last election. INEC they don't want to accept fault. They don't want to accept that they disappointed the people. So with this kind of attitude, how do you think that people will now come? They are not even begging the people. And in this particular case, have you seen INEC making vigorous awareness campaign for people to go and register?
It's great that you mentioned that, because I was going to come to that. I know they're updating their verified X page frequently. Every week they bring new statistics that show the number of online completed registrations and the physical registrations. They're doing that, but that's what we see on X. I'm yet to see that drive, that willingness, that relationship with media houses to help drive the CVR exercise. So I think it's quite ironic to many people that somebody would just be in his office and say that people don't want to, and it's everybody's responsibility, because you've not even come forward. I mean, who are the stakeholders that we're engaged with? I understand that he did grant an interview to the News Agency of Nigeria talking about engaging with stakeholders and also expressing surprise, reportedly, about the figures despite his engagement with stakeholders. And I'm wondering, who are those stakeholders? I mean, the stakeholders should involve the media, don't you think?
They ought to involve the media. Natalie, I remember in the past, even in those days, when some of us were still in practice or in the field, practicing journalism as reporters. I could remember in those years that during any national exercise pertaining to election, whether voters registration or some other things, that INEC would devote much time to create awareness. To mount awareness campaign, they will invite the various media houses to tell them, you know, their program. They would invite the stakeholders. The stakeholders in this aspect, they include the party officials, all the various political parties. INEC will invite them. INEC will invite the security agencies, because they are part of the stakeholders. They will invite even the market traders association and various the civil society organizations. All these people, they come together to make up the stakeholders, including the media. So they invite them to educate them, to inform them of their plan to embark on registration, voter registration exercise. And they will seek the support of everybody to get involved in mobilizing the people, in creating the awareness to get the people to come and vote. Those that are up to the adult suffrage to become voters, that is those that are up to 18 years and above, for them to, those that are yet to register or that don't have what is it called, the voters registration card, you know, in order to encourage them to come and vote. They will talk to the media, they will talk to party chiefs to go back to their various places to educate the people and to encourage the people to come out and register.
So right now we're looking at a process that is continuous, as the name implies. It is a continuous voter registration exercise. So it continues, right? And it comes up every time, giving people a chance to go and resolve their issues or pursue fresh registrations if they don't have any. Now, does the number we're seeing now, do the statistics currently necessarily translate to low voter turnout in 2027, when indeed the PVCs would become necessary? Does this, because you have people that already have, like I have my permanent voters card, I don't need to go back again because I'm not changing my location, neither am I seeking a new PVC. So essentially, does it mean, do you think that this figure we're seeing translates to low voter turnout in 2027?
It might, but this country is like what I used to make reference to always, you know, during my interaction with the late Chobo Kadibu. He was saying, he told me in an interview, he said, Abuchi, look, that statistics, that it is like the bikinis, that the bikinis, what the bikinis show or reveal is very interesting. And that again, what the bikinis at the same time hides or conceals is interesting or even amazing. So Nigeria is, I try to liken Nigeria to the case of the bikinis, that what Nigeria hides is interesting and what it reveals is also interesting or amazing. So that's the situation, because I wouldn't be surprised tomorrow if, despite the low voter attitude, the low voter turnout and all that, even registration, you still see high figures being bandied, being churned out as that it is the number of people that voted in that election. So I would not like to say, yes, it is expected that low voter registration this time around will have spiral spillover effect in the coming election in 2 years ahead. But again, I will not be surprised if, despite the low voter registration, high figures are, you know, declared as pertaining to those who voted in that election.
Right. Some would argue that even if there were to be high figures, that the Southeast may not be the... If we're going to go with that conspiracy that you just brought up now, we'll be seeing high figures from maybe elsewhere.
Elsewhere, not elsewhere.
Right.
Not in the Southeast,
yes,
because it's obvious. The Southeast, they feel heavily injured. by the incident of that 2023
That's
election.
right. So essentially, what should INEC be doing right now, as opposed to what they're doing, saying that voter registration and, of course, free, fair elections should be everybody's responsibility. People should come out. They are there. Everything is working fine. People should come out. What should they be doing right now?
What they ought to be doing is if I may say, peacemaking. They ought to be showing remorse, sufficient remorse over what happened in the last election. They ought to be appealing to the people. They ought to be mounting vigorous awareness campaign, talking to the people, trying to encourage them, telling them not to be despondent. They ought to be rekindling the faith of the people in the electoral process.
For the sake of people watching this who may not have followed what happened in the 2023 elections, could you refresh our memories and take us back in time to INEC's purported complicity in the election?
Of course, INEC made promises that they were going to use electronic system in the conduct of the election, in transmission of results, and so many other things, but they failed to do that. They didn't do that. That didn't apply in the last presidential election, and the people were disappointed. Again, people felt in so many places where they voted that the results that were eventually declared did not reflect the actual situation on ground at the various polling stations or collation centers and things like that. So that led to that general apathy. And the people felt that the way and manner the INEC chairman declared the winner of the presidential election was highly questionable. So people became disappointed, people became disenchanted. And INEC has not done anything to disprove this belief by the people that a lot of wrong things, took place during that election process.
You talk about the presidential election, but we also had gubernatorial elections that year. How did you find the Enugu State gubernatorial election?
Of course, you remember, you were here then, you could remember that it was a very controversial one. The last gubernatorial election in Enugu State, it was so intense, intensely contested, and there was very high tension everywhere, and it was fraught with so much controversy and things like that. But in the end, after even I think a by-election or rerun election in one or two places in the state, somebody was declared the winner of the election, again in controversial circumstance. But people had to accept their fate as they saw it, because the electoral umpire had made their declaration one way or the other as to who won that election. And going beyond that, the courts, helped to endorse whatever declaration that the electoral umpire had made. And so it had been since that time.
Right. So with regards to that controversial rerun election, we know that the candidate, Labour Party candidate, did again win. He was again declared winner by INEC, but now they have to go to court because apparently there's a controversy around his status. Being a convict. I mean, that's a major controversy there.
Okay, you mean the last the Enugu South election? Yeah, we saw that, and until INEC had to go to Abuja to declare him the winner of that election. Yet, like they will say in Igbo, ihejia aharokwe.
All right. So I would like us to, talk about the essence of this registration. So, of course, we're registering not because we want to go on holiday, but because we want to vote in 2027. Now, there's a lot of talk around 2027, a lot of, everybody, you're seeing even INEC telling people, warning INEC to punish people, offenders who go ahead and start campaigning now, because the build-up has started and the election is going to come again, we're going to have gubernatorial elections, and of course we're going to have the presidential election. So when you think of 2027, do you see it being as heated as 2023? And I'd like you to bring it home to the States, because that's where we are. But first, let's go on this quick break. Enugu Kwenu returns in just seconds. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still watching Enugu Kwenu here on Afia TV, and I'm still joined in the studio by Sir Abuchi Anueyiagu. Now, right before we went on the break, much earlier on the show, we took an interview with the HOD VEP INEC, Mr. Rex Achume, and he spoke rather briefly, 30 seconds, but in a short while, we'll get you the full interview, and of course, Sir Abuchi and I will be sure to take a look at everything he said in line with his duty, which is to bridge the gap between the umpire and the electorate. So Abuchi, so before the break, we talked about 2027 and the build up to it, as well as what you may expect would be the temperature in Enugu State specifically. What are your thoughts around the purpose of this CBR, which is to make Enugu residents able to vote at the election?
Well, despite the fact that people are already feeling disenchanted, and then there is a lot of apathy, resentment, hovering or revolving around the issue of voters registration. People should, I think people should go ahead and register. Register because, sorry, the issue of voting during the election is not only for the purposes of this INEC registration, because it's a way of also knowing the numerical strength of a given area in terms of what is it demography or so, that you know the number of people that are eligible to vote in a particular area, and can even be used in distribution of amenities in future. So the consequences of the last election, the outcome of the last election in 2023, as it concerns the governorship election in Enugu State, people might still have apathy, but one way or the other, whatever is the situation, the current political situation of the state will be a determining factor as to what happens, how the voters will react in the coming election in 2027. If, for instance, the present administration in the state, if they do well, if they do very well, and for the benefit of people, it will then behove them to encourage people to come and maybe to give support again.
All right, let's look at the figures as well. This is taken from the INEC verified page, where they've been sharing updates, like we said earlier, and we're looking at the data released for week 3. We understand that, of course, the physical registration, that's the in-person registration, started, after the online pre-registration started. So that explains the gap in the weeks. So let's look at the figures. Anambra, we don't have any of that because, of course, they're still pending the conclusion of Anambra gubernatorial election. So Enugu, looking at the physical registration statistics on week 3, we see 1,480 registrants for Abia, 1,251 voters registered. Imo, 4,967 people registered, and Ebonyi, 3,875. So we see Enugu and Abia in the thousands range, the 1,000 range, and for Imo and Ebonyi, we're seeing them going to 3,000 and even 4,000. So just deviating away from the state slightly, why do you think the voters there appear eager to register and get their voters' cards? I mean, conspiracies allowed. What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, again, you may trace it to the outcome of the election, the 2023 election, where the governorship election in Enugu State, the person that was eventually declared the winner, that election was fraught with controversies, as I said earlier. Everybody, those who were around or who were in the state during that period, will remember, will know what I am talking about. So, and in the end, somebody was eventually declared, even against the run of play, even against the expectations of the people. And that might still be rubbing off on the system, on the entire system, where people are having apathy. People now feel that whatever happens, even if they register or they fail to register, that it is obvious. If somebody was declared winner of the election when he wasn't governor, then is it now that he's governor that he will not do everything humanly possible to be declared again? So on that basis, people will say there is no point going to register because it will also go the same way of 2023.
Yes, but in this case, we understand Imo is off cycle. Usually they have theirs after these other three states. But my question is, Enugu and Abia have under 2,000 people who registered, but Imo and Ebonyi have in the range of 3,000, 4,000. I mean, conspiracy theorists will say that, are they in a hurry to go and, I mean, do they want to change something? Are they not happy with how things are going? I mean, this is just on the side.
Of course, Natalie, you know that there is despair in Imo as things are today. The government in Imo State is not popular. It is very obvious. The government that you have there, people are not happy. Even people are still remembering how the present governor, how he became the governor of the state from maybe the fourth person or even not a candidate, because the Supreme Court that said Uche Nwosu was the candidate of APC. The Supreme Court later said Uche Nwosu was the candidate of APC. So how come that somebody you declared the candidate of a political party and another person in the same election?
On the flip side, could we have so many of them? Maybe because they want to retain the leadership that they do have.
Of course. So there is a power play in Imo State. Many people are now struggling to ensure that things don't go the way they went about 8 years or so ago. Mm-hmm. So people are angling. You know, Imo State is like Anambra State. So, you know, you cannot predict. It's unpredictable. You cannot predict what will happen because the people decide. They are the people that will decide who becomes their governor. Even if they are the incumbent, a situation where an incumbent governor fails to perform to the expectations of the people, of course, the result will show during the election.
Right.
It happened once in Imo State.
So let's talk about the disparity that we're seeing here. What do you think accounts for the disparity between the Southeast states? Of course, Enugu, I've already given the figures, and other states as well. What do you think is making the count different? Is it that INEC is doing more publicity in those states than INEC Enugu is doing in Enugu State? I mean, what do you think are the factors that contribute to the difference in figures? I mean, we get to Imo State and we see it skyrockets immediately to 4,000. We get to Ebo, it skyrockets to 3,000. So what do you think is happening? Why are we seeing such divergent figures?
Natalie, it has to do with, if you look at it critically or deeply, you will find out that this thing perhaps may not be unconnected with awareness creation, where the people, where the agencies, where the bodies that ought to be mobilizing the people, creating the awareness, where they fail to do that, of course, the result will show. So it is possible that in Imo State and the Ebonyi State, that despite INEC's failure, for instance, to create awareness, about this voters registration exercise. Maybe the political parties, the political elements in the state, they are the ones now encouraging people to go and vote. If people do that, you find a situation where even somebody in a community will come back home, will leave the place, the city where he's living, he will come back to his community and begin to mobilize his community, mobilize them to go and register. He will encourage them. He will even tell them that you never mind, do not mind what happened in the past, that this time they are going to ensure that justice prevails.
Right.
So by so doing, you are now encouraging the people. So people go beyond INEC. They don't leave this thing in the hands of INEC alone. They embark on, volunteering. They volunteer to do the awareness by mobilizing their people in their locale to go and vote. So that's probably what has happened in Imo State, where private individuals are going out of their way to mobilize their people, to encourage their people to go and register for the next election.
Naturally, that will make the next question be, what do you think the role of civil society organizations in Enugu should be at this point in time? If your prediction or your speculation proves true, what should CSOs, NGOs be doing now, beyond their own political affiliations and inclinations? What should they be doing to enhance the publicity in Enugu in general? That's on one side. Second question I have is, do you think that INEC is actually aware of its responsibility to educate voters?
INEC is very much aware, because INEC was not established just yesterday. INEC had been there. INEC is like a going concern. Even though they have changed from FEDECO to is it NEC or NECON, FEDECO, NEC, NECON, NECON under Abacha, I think, and then later INEC, since the emergence of the civilian dispensation. They have been there, and awareness creation for whatever program, for whatever exercise they have, it is not new to them. They used to do that. So whatever is their reason for not doing so currently, it is only INEC that we know. Even the time of Jonathan, INEC used to create, good luck Jonathan, INEC used to create adequate awareness for things like this. So but since the present regime, I wouldn't know why INEC has become so docile, so passive about mobilization. It is only them that will
answer the question.
Yes.
So civil society organizations, NGOs, should they be taking on that baton that INEC appears to be dropping?
Of course, of course. It is part of their responsibility to create awareness and then to discourage voter apathy. Not only for during elections, but before elections, as it has to do with voters registration. The civil society organizations, they owe it as a duty to the people, to the society, to mobilize them, to educate them. They are even the ones that ought to be going around to educate the people on the necessity, the importance of doing voter registration.
All right. Now there's this conversation that comes up every time we talk about people having to go and pick up their PVCs to vote. You have people say, analysts, pundits say that it is more difficult to rig the election when hundreds of thousands of millions of people come out to vote, as opposed to when people decide not to vote. But we saw what happened in 2023. Elections nationwide, we saw what happened. People still believe that their votes did not count, despite the numbers that came out and the heated election season. People kept saying that was going to be the most heated ever. But we saw what happened despite the numbers. So does the argument that numbers stop rigging still hold water?
I don't know how people come about whether there is large number or low number. Anybody that wants to rig will rig. And with the cooperation of or connivance of some elements in the society, some parts of the society, they may succeed in rigging, like the experience we had in the last election. So it has nothing to do, by my own thinking, with either the high turnout of voters or low turnout of voters. Still, whoever that wants to rig will rig, unless the person, by low turnout, those that came out to vote were only his own people that voted for that particular candidate, then there will be no need for rigging again, because they know that it is their people that came to vote. Otherwise, if it is a situation where generally everybody came out and voted either for or against a particular candidate, and then a given candidate has that intention of rigging the election, you cannot stop him from attempting to do that.
One last question I have before we wrap this up, Sir Abuchi. There are pockets of belief, people that are coming out now, people are saying that INEC in itself has turned to a political party. Do you think INEC is now its own political party?
INEC, yes, now. People are saying it is INEC versus the people. Given the experience of 2023. So people came to that conclusion that, oh, look, what we are doing is just like a referee who in a football match who decided to be partial and then inclined to one of the two teams in a match. So people, based on what what happened, even a situation where somebody that has something to do with INEC was quoted as saying you can go to court and things like that. You see, so people believe that it is INEC versus the people.
Right.
Right.
I mean, when you said was quoted to have said that, it just made me cast my mind back to when people tell you after an interview, don't quote me. Because somebody like Sir Abuchi might come on a live show in front of the entire world and say that he was quoted as saying. So before we go, let's be fair to INEC. Let's hear once again the, seemingly complete interview from the HOD VEP, of course, Mr. Rex Achumi, and what he has to say about the role of the citizens in ensuring free, fair, credible elections in an interview with Afia TV. Let's take a look.
Saying that they are finding it difficult to register, because I didn't see any reason why they should find it difficult. We have two stages of this registration. We started one on 18th, which is called online registration. That is where you're expected to stay on the comfort of your home, do the registration on your own, but end at a particular stage. And this stage has to do with your thumb printing, in which case you have to come to INEC office or designated various centers of INEC local government offices to complete the process. And that one we stopped on 25th. Then started what we called in-person. In-person now means you'll now come to INEC office now and do the registration, especially people who are first-time registrants. But if probably you want to transfer your unit, maybe you are in Lagos, you want to relocate to Enugu, or you are, say for instance, Enugu North, you want to go to Nsukka, any of the local governments, or you are in Unit 1, you want to go to Unit B, you can do that one on your own with your phone. You don't need to come to INEC to do that one. For correction, updates, you can equally do that with your phone. So the in-person we are talking of is purely for fresh registrants. It doesn't mean that people who wants to do transfer or update or whatever that can't do it on their own, that they can come to INEC office to do it. They can still come and do it. But to avoid the situation where you come here, queue on the line and waste your time or whatever, you can now do it on your own through INEC www.cgrinecnigeria.org.
All right, and there you have it, Mr. Rek Achumie. Of course, he's the head of voter registration, of course, voter education and publicity, much rather INEC, Enugu State. And he's been there for a rather long time. I mean, I hope we're going to meet again in 2027, because I remember I was hot on his case in 2023. But let's see if he'll still be there. I still have to figure out the tenure of the HOD VEP, but he may still be there, even though. But yes, we'll surely connect with him again. So, Abuchi, so what are your final expectations as we wrap up this program? Your final expectations ahead of 2027, and of course, registrations going on now.
Well, I rather than saying my final expectations, yes. As for my final expectations, I think I have said it sometime in the past that I have not seen any end in sight as to what happened in 2023. I am yet to see any end in sight pertaining to the irregularities or the alleged cases of irregularities in the last election.
In other words, you're saying you don't have expectations.
So, my expectations now, I have said I have not seen any end in sight. So, in other words, I'm saying that there is likely to be a repetition of what happened in 2023. There is likely to be, because INEC, they have not showed enough cause. They have not showed, not even, one cannot say sufficient reason for people to believe them that there is going to be credible election in 2027. Despite having this type of feelings, I still urge people to go out and vote. Those that are eligible to register now, let them go out and register, and at least have that possession of your permanent voters card. It might be useful for you in some other reasons in the future.
Okay, well, out of time, Abuchi, thank you so much for joining the program today. Yeah. And I like that final call. It's still important for everyone to go out and, you know, pick up their permanent voters card or make any changes that you need to now before the queue gets from Obara Avenue to Bisala Road. Please do well to get your card now while you still have the time to do that. On behalf of the entire production team of Enugu Kwenu here at Apathy TV, I've been your host, Nathalie Uku, telling you thank you so much for watching, and thank you, Abuchi, once again. Enugu Kwenu returns same time, same channel next Wednesday at 4 p.m. Until then, have a lovely evening. Bye for now.